So first of all, what is a brand? Well, if you think about it, a brand is truly the identity of who that entity is, right? And that brand can be a company, a person, an institution. It can really be anything, but it really is all about who you are as an entity. And it really demonstrates your personality and experience, driven by historical experience as well as perception. And the key to think about here is that both companies and people, namely applicants in this case, can have brands. And it's important to understand that it's never too early to build that brand. So when you think about some brand examples that you're probably familiar with, let's look at a couple. First of all, Amazon. Well, what do you think about when you think about Amazon? One-stop shop, efficiency, maybe lowest price, sometimes not always. Easy, great customer service. So that's an example of a brand. Whenever I see that Amazon brand, that's what I think about. Great place to go, one-stop shop, very efficient, super easy. Starbucks. There's a Starbucks on every corner, so it's convenient. Quality. I know that the food that I'm going to get is going to be sourced in a responsible way. It's going to be the same quality if I'm in one part of the country versus another, or even another part of the world. It's consistent. It's customized for me. So if I want soy milk, if I want it extra hot, whatever the case may be, it's customized for my own taste, and there's an experience to it. Starbucks is not just about picking up coffee or picking up your food. It's about spending time there, sitting down, pulling out your laptop, engaging with other people. There's a Starbucks experience that I have now fallen into, that trap where I will pass multiple other places and find a Starbucks for that reason. Finally, Admin Advantage, our admissions coaching partner. When you think about admissions coaching and what they bring to the table, having done this for over 12 years now, experience, insights, a process that they follow that has given them success, customer service, and ultimately performance, having gotten 90% or so of their clients into at least one school over the last 12 years. So when I think about brands, those are some brand examples that come to mind, and why it's kind of important about establishing a brand yourself. All right, why does it even matter that you have a brand? Well, first of all, you have to think about it from this perspective. If you're looking at a kind of top 25, top 30 school, approximately 65 to 80% of the applicants who apply are actually admissible. So think about that for a second. 65 to 80% of the people who actually submit an application, they could have said yes to. And that other percentage is maybe just way too far out of the norm of, say, GMAT, GRE, whatever LSAT score, whatever it is, GPA is out of range. Maybe they don't meet if there's kind of a work requirement, a work experience requirement, they don't meet that standard and probably never should have applied. But you're competing against the majority of the people, the super majority of the people who are actually applying are admissible. That's really important for you to understand, because that drives home the importance of a brand. So within that, say, let's call it 75%, you have a 10 to 20% total admissions rate from that overall group of people who apply. So not only are you looking at, my competition is strong, but also the rates of admission are very low. And so how do you compete against people who have kind of similar numbers or similar experiences in a highly competitive environment? And the simple answer is brand. It's that simple, right? It's all about how you differentiate yourself among other candidates to really make your application stand out. These stories are old, and I've used them for years, but in true business fashion, I'm going to use these almost like a case study. And it's significant lessons in kind of brand leadership and brand identity, and understanding what your brand is and what it is that you really want to highlight. Well, Most, if not all of you, know Coca-Cola. Certainly, if you haven't had a Coke, you should. But Coca-Cola was kind of struggling in the mid '80s, and Pepsi was kind of this up and coming brand where Coke had kind of dominated, and Pepsi was starting to take over. Or not take over, but really take market share, spending a lot of money on marketing, and it was kind of the cool brand where Coke was seen as kind of the old brand. So they kind of panicked and they reformulated Coke and they called it the New Coke in April of 1985. And they released this Coke and they had all this marketing campaign around it. And it was actually, I remember it was sweet and sweeter than the current Coke. Pepsi's a little bit sweeter, so it tastes a little bit more like Pepsi. And the public perception immediately was negative, and it went viral. Viral those days was not, through social media, but like everyone was talking about it. I mean, if there were social media at the time, it would have been, a madhouse. But almost immediately, Coke reintroduced what they call Coke Classic. And if you look at Coca-Cola brands or you pick up a Coke, you'll see this little classic sign underneath some of them where it will say Coke Classic. And that is the reaction to kind of insulting the Coke brand fans by introducing this new Coke. They reintroduced kind of the old Coke formula in this form of Coke Classic, and sales took off. And I think so. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, so to speak, and people started to really drive the sales of Coca-Cola in the mid '80s into the '90s. And the brand lesson there is, outside of you should probably do some test marketing before you introduce a brand new flavor, is stay true to yourself. This application process is so challenging, and you'll look around and there's so much information online about, well, I did this and this is what you should do. I always tell clients that the most important thing is to be true to yourself and be the best you can be, showing your passion and your competencies of who you are. Don't try to be Pepsi, be Coke. And if you do a really good job of that, then you'll be successful in doing so. And the last story is around Apple. So everyone knows Apple, but not all of you know the story around Apple. Apple used to be a computer maker. So they competed against what we now call kind of the PC or the Microsoft-based systems. Back then, it wasn't even Microsoft initially. But Apple was kind of the small up-and-coming computer maker. They made some kind of unique computers, the Cube, and all kinds of different kind of innovative computers, but it never really took off. And what they realized is that their core competency was not computers. In fact, it was building innovative consumer products. And it was through that revelation that they introduced the iPod, the iPad, iPhone, and all of the other innovations that are leading consumer products to this day. That was all because Steve Jobs realized that Apple was not a computer company, and that in fact they were a consumer products company, and that one of their key competencies was innovation and understanding their audience. It's the reason why when you pick up an iPhone and you can give an iPhone or an iPad to a child, they don't need to read instructions. They don't need to ask questions. It's very intuitive because they're great at providing consumer products that make sense and that are intuitive for their users. So they leveraged that competency and innovation and sleek design to really not only take market share from computers, but create whole new categories in consumer products. And obviously, you know the story from there. So the key brand lesson for Apple is determine your competency, right? Look at yourself, don't let anyone else define you. You define you, right? If you're someone who has a particular background, embrace that background. Talk about who you are. Think creatively about what you bring to the table, and really think hard about what you want your brand perception to be. So I'm going to flip it for a second, and I want you to think about the application process in a slightly different way maybe than you have in the past. Think about your customer as the admissions rep, right? Whatever school you're applying to or multiple schools you're applying to, your customer is the admissions team, right? The team that's actually reading your application. Put yourself in their shoes. They've read thousands of applications, certainly hundreds. Maybe they're sitting at their desk or at home. It's a late night. They're on their laptop, probably drinking a glass of wine. They're on their, 50th application that day. Everything's starting to look the same to them. Most of the people coming through have, they could make an argue for or against. It's a tough job. The key for you is, can you be that application that's memorable? Can you stand out with that admissions rep where they feel like, it's late at night, they're drinking their wine, they're reading applications, where they want to sit up in their chair and read it again, maybe read more, find out more about you. Hey, this person seems really interesting. I think this person would be a great fit because they're really telling me more. I want to learn more about their story. The key for the branding is to make the AdCom or the admissions rep advocate for you by developing a brand that's compelling. So by you developing the brand, you then ultimately make it an exciting application, and the AdCom can then advocate on your behalf as, hey, this is a person that I think would be a great fit for our program.
Admit me, never apply alone.